Welcome to episode 10 of the Punk Rock Drummers podcast with
Lucy Giles of Dog Party.
This is a fun one.
And Peach Kelly Pop and a bunch of other stuff too, which you'll hear about. You're right, man. It was super fun. Definitely made it easy. We get to hear some like little tales from the recent tour in Japan.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's cool learning about her life. You know, she's so young and everything seemed to happen so fast.
Yeah,
you know,
it was killer.
Like learning drums and then like on tour.
Yeah,
which is absolutely insane. I don't know if I could have handled that. So, hats off to Lucy.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. So, what's going on?
I'm excited. Normally, I want to talk about things that happen in the episode, but I kind of want to let I want to let this one speak for itself because I think it really does. And I think Lucy's just drumming in general. It's such like a laid back swing to it. It's refreshing to hear for sure. So we'll kind of just get right into it. Today's episode is brought to us in part by Parkway Music in Clifton Park, New York. Guitars, drums, audio, basses is I can't say it. Basses. This sounds weird, doesn't it? Basses. Mm-hmm. You can get them at parkwaymusic.com. Check out their Reverb store. And we're gonna push some sleeve washers until Rhino sponsors us.
Right. Yeah, I've got them right here actually. Sleeve washers. These are great. Go on your drums. Just
keep
under
them tuned.
Yeah. On the tension rod and keeps them tuned. Eliminates some rattle. Because your drums, you're in the heat and the cold, and they go out of tune really easily. So the sleeve wash, I know I go out of tune when I sing. Well, I start out of tune. I never end up in tune. Yeah, sleeve washers and also Rhythm and Roast coffee. Great coffee, good people. Check them out. rhythmroast.com.
Yes, sir. And if you use the code Punk Rock Drummers, you get 10% off a bag of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And a Christmas elf will throw it at your face.
Yes. So
yes, that's its delivery, main delivery service.
Yeah. So enough of us. Let's get into the interview with Lucy Giles.
Episode 10, season 1, coming to an end.
Let's do it.
Yeah, buddy. I always liked Kids in the Hall. Oh, hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Are we screaming at you? Sorry. I don't know if this is too loud or not. We were just discussing Reno 911, the state, and Kids in the Hall. So I don't know if you're familiar with any of those or if we're just
heard of Reno 911, but that's just about it.
It's all sketch comedy that we grew up on.
We'll just get right in with
Are we old guys?
Fucking old Matt and I, for sure. Well, thanks for coming on. That's Matt. I'm Christian.
Hi, Lucy.
Yeah, it's such an honor to be here, you guys.
Thanks for coming on. This is awesome.
Yeah, cool.
I'm super excited.
Yeah, did you get enough sleep? You good?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, cool. The time zone thing keeps messing me up too. Where I'm like,
Christian screwed up on the time. Sorry about that.
Man.
That's why you have 2 Zoom links.
Well, you don't have to apologize to Lucy. It was more I owe you an apology for making you hop on an hour early. And we're sitting here like, yeah, it's 9:00 where you're at.
Oh yeah, I saw that you sent the email at 9, and I was like, I hope he didn't think that it was at 9, but
it happens.
No.
When you have someone on the West Coast, and I'm in Central Time, and then Christian's on Eastern Time.
Yeah,
things get a little weird. So. But we just talked to Yuri of MXPX and it didn't happen. So maybe it was because I set that one up.
Yeah, and definitely. I mean, let's see. I dropped out of high school halfway through 10th grade and I'm 44. So it's been a while since I've had some good schooling. So
I just get on Google and I'm like, what time is it in California? And then I go from there. So that's the
enough about, this is not about my lack of education. This is about Lucy. So should we jump right in?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to assume here that you probably grew up in a pretty musical household.
I did, but it's a little bit different because both my parents, well, neither of my parents are musicians. They just really like music. So that was kind of like the thing. My dad is so like obsessed with music. He always has it playing. And so growing up, it was just always there. And he's pretty like, into the music scene. And so I was always listening to like really cool bands ever since I was young. So
What was your first, do you have like old like childhood memory of like the first thing that you remember?
yeah, one of the first like big musical memories of mine was sitting in the back of my dad's car and hearing this song, and it just blew my mind. And I was like, Dad, who is this lady singing? And my dad was like, it's no lady, that's Jack White. It was the White Stripes. The song was My Doorbell. And I was just like, it was crazy to me. And I've just been hooked ever since, really.
That's crazy. Wow. Yeah, we are old. Anyway.
I know. I was
So
thinking, like Aretha Franklin or something much older or something. That's where my brain was going.
Yeah.
I do love that childhood innocence of like not knowing. I remember thinking Geddy Lee was a woman for like
Oh my gosh.
the longest, but at least I feel like that's a little a little understandable. So you grew up playing with your sister?
I did.
Are you guys super close in age or?
Yep, we're 2 years apart.
Yeah, we all three of us, I think. I mean, my brother's 18 months older than me. We grew up playing together, Matt and all his cousins as well. So
Yeah,
how,
there's nothing like it. There's no other, like, there's no words that could describe playing music with a sibling because it's such a crazy bond that, like, no one will understand unless they play music with a sibling.
you have that like telepathy, right? Like you can.
Yeah, straight up telepathy.
Yeah, I've been doing that for 30 years with my two cousins. It's so cool. Like I don't even know how it happened, honestly. And we're not we didn't really come from a super musical family. It was more singing, I guess.
Okay.
My dad played guitar a little and but for some reason the three of us were all similar in age. We all, I mean, it's been 30 years, we still play together, and it's crazy. Like I don't know. It's like almost it almost makes you feel like you play tighter together for some reason.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
When you play with someone else, it's like just not the same.
For sure. I totally understand.
So how old were you two when you first started writing together?
Oh my goodness. Well, we started writing songs before we could even play together, essentially. Like, I was just 8 years old. Well, it was a little bit before that. I think it was when my sister was 9, so I was 7. And she actually was in school band, and she was playing the flute, and she had just gotten braces, and there was this crazy like contraption on the roof of her mouth. At the time, they called them expanders. I don't know what they call them now. But
Torture.
every day, my dad would have to go in with a key and like adjust this thing because I don't know what was wrong with her mouth. Maybe it was either too skinny or too wide, like the roof of her mouth. But anyways, because of that, it was really hard for her to play the flute because the way that the air moved out of her mouth was different every day. And so the band teacher actually called my parents in one day and like basically kicked my sister out of the band because she just couldn't pick up the instrument. And so my parents had to break the news to her, and she was pretty bummed because she really wanted to play an instrument. And so my dad, he was just like, "Is there any other instrument you'd like to play?" And it was literally right about then when Green Day American Idiot came out, and my sister was like, I want to play the guitar because I want to be like Billy Joe. Because, I mean, who didn't? And so, sure enough, she got a guitar for her birthday. And I just remember being such a little envious younger sibling. Like, what? She got a guitar? Like, it was just like, I already loved music so much, like we both did. But then now she was one step closer to making it than I was. And I was like, what? And so once she got the guitar, she was like, I'm going to start a band with my friends and like you can't be in it type vibe. Because I didn't know how to play anything. And
if I may step in here, I have 3 daughters, so yeah, I know. But continue.
So I was just like, dang. And my sister, she started writing songs right away. Like my sister is so cool and smart and intuitive, and she's always been such a good songwriter. And I just remember her writing like this banger song when she was just 9. So then I tried to do the same, I get my little note lyrics. Like I didn't play anything though, so it was hard. But then shortly after, she had her guitar and she, really picked up on it and was just, already playing away. My birthday was coming around and my dad was like, might as well get her an instrument. So one day he was driving around in our neighborhood and he saw a garage sale. And sure enough, there was a drum set there. And he picked it up for me and took it home and he set it up. And it's really funny because it's set up completely backwards. And there's a picture somewhere online of it, of me. I think it was for my 7th birthday. And got my drum set, but I couldn't play it because nobody would accept me for lessons because I was like too young. And I was also, a young girl, and that kind of like freaked a lot of these guys out. They're like, I don't want to teach her how to play the drums for some reason. So I had to wait until I was 8, and I finally got in to take lessons. And it was pretty much like, we all start doing rudiments on the snare. I was just like begging them, like, please, 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 I want to play the drum set, please. And I just remember like going into the lessons and always just looking over at it, all set up, almost like, spotlight on it. And like, I was like, that's where I want to be. And I remember the day where he was like, okay, let's go over to the drum set. And of course I had been like, trying to prepare as much as I could with what I had. And so I picked up on it super easy. And once I got that, 8th note groove down, it was like rushed home, like already playing a song with my sister, like songs being written, like bam.
So does she go from like you can't be in the band to like you are the band?
Yeah.
Pretty quickly.
she was kind of like a little bit. I mean, my sister is the sweetest thing, and she's never been like mean to me. But she was a little bit like, hey, this was like my idea. I wanted to start with my friends, but none of her friends knew how to play instruments other than like, I don't know, maybe band instruments, like, I don't even know, clarinet or something, which you could sort of band with that, but no one was like playing like bass or drums or anything. And so I just kind of like fell into the position like, hey, like I'm here, I'm ready. And she was like, okay. It didn't take much convincing.
I'm giving lessons to an 8-year-old girl right now once a week. And we didn't really start out playing like the boring stuff because I'm always afraid they're gonna like not come back. So I'm like, let's just learn some beats. And I always hope that when she grows up, maybe she'll be someone kind of like you, like this guy, he taught me how to play drums and now I'm in this like huge band or whatever.
Yeah, I'm also teaching an 8-year-old girl how to play the drums also. And I definitely was like very honored to have this opportunity. Like, whoa, like I remember being 8 and I remember having to go to all these old men who were so strict or like didn't really like, I don't know what their deal was, but I was like, how could I make her experience like different and more enjoyable, but like still teach her like fundamental techniques? You know what I mean?
I'm old, but I'm not strict.
That's great. Because I had a lot of, I didn't have a lot of teachers, but I had a good handful that were just like, I look back and I'm like, really? Like, that's how you behaved? Like, bruh. Like, I was such a unique kid that I just had this like burning passion to play. Like, even though, like, I feel like if I was like some like run of the mill kid, I would have tried to play and been like, oh, this isn't really working out or whatever. But I just was like, I have to play.
Yeah, you had it. You had the passion.
Yeah. And so it's just crazy. looking back. I remember my drum teacher, my second drum teacher, um, he was the one that taught me how to play on the kit. And, I rushed home after that and basically, finished writing like 3 songs with my sister because I like knew how to do more stuff. And our first ever like performance was at the school talent show. And that teacher went because that was the school that he taught at. And after the performance, he came up to me and he was like mad or like annoyed. And he was like, I saw you, you know, opening up your hi-hat like during the groove, like and closing it. I didn't teach you that. Like, where did you learn that? Are you like going somewhere else for lessons? And I was like, oh my God, no.
I mean, you can't learn stuff on your own.
Yeah.
Well, also you're a child, and that's a grown ass adult.
Mere child. And so I think about these things, and I'm just like, dang, like I would never do something like
that. Yeah, my oldest is shown interest in playing my 13-year-old, but it's weird. Like she had lessons when she was a little bit younger, and I would just hang out there at the shop I've been going to my whole life. But she'll come downstairs and just sit behind my drums, and it's so aggravating. She'll just play them, and I'll show her like rudiments, and she'll invert them and do them in like triplets, and there's just all this natural talent. But I'm like, oh, try this, and she's like, I'm good, and just like goes back upstairs. And I was like, dude, I would kill to have had that, like at that age of like just knowing what to do. But I wonder if there's an element of wanting to continue and just, I mean, I think all three of us and a lot of people we talked to just had that bug where it was like, this is a puzzle and I have to figure it out and nothing else matters. It's crazy. And I wonder if we're going to see less of that. I hate saying stuff like this, but I feel like there's so many other distractions outside of it where like we just had, that was it. And there was nothing else. So it kind of sucks a little bit, but anyways, enough with the doom and gloom here. Do you remember what the kit was?
I do. I played it until I was 18 years old. It was a Ruther. And they're like, I'm pretty sure my kit was from the 70s. And it's like made in Taiwan, I think. But it had a crazy wrap. It was like metallic gold, like foil.
Someone just wrapped aluminum foil on
it. It didn't quite look like that, but it wasn't like a metallic flake. It was still reflective, but it was more like a solid color, like a foil.
Was that your drum kit, or was that like just one you played? Okay,
that was my kit.
I noticed in a video you were playing Ludwig. I didn't know if you were a Ludwig person.
I am now. It was actually for my 18th birthday. I had been wanting a Ludwig kit for years, and I went down to my local guitar center, and like there it was, sitting there in the used section. They were charging $3.99 for the kit, and I just came in, and my eyes were big, but my lips were sealed. So I was like, these people don't know what this kit is. It had painted white insides, dates stamped inside. I was like, oh my God. But there was one strange thing about the kit, and that was the first tom. It was a fake, like a rep, like someone put Ludwig badges on it. It was painted blue on the inside. There was like a really weird, like flat seam in the middle of the drum. And so I think that's why they had it discounted, because they were like, oh, I don't think this is a real Ludwig. But everything else was. Everything else was stamped and dated 1966. And so I was like, oh, I need this. So basically, I got it for my 18th birthday. And I was playing that kit for years up until last year when I finally got my first ever brand new drum set. And I really do like my new kit. I love it so much, but I just love vintage drums also because I love like all things vintage. And it was very, very cool. I'm very lucky to be a Ludwig artist, and I've gotten to meet the fellas over at Ludwig, and my guy Uli, he rocks. And one time we were playing a show in Chicago with CJ Ramon, and before the show, he took me out like down the street a block, and he said, "This is where the first Ludwig factory was, and that is where your drums were built."
Wow.
And so I actually brought my rack tom to the location and I took a picture with it. It's just crazy.
That's awesome. Man, what a sweetheart.
Kit sounds amazing. Yeah.
CJ is such a nice dude.
Oh my gosh, he's the best.
I saw him. I actually saw it was Kepi and Mean Jeans in the city a few years ago now, but CJ just popped in and he and I had talked about a very specific guitar on Instagram through like DMs 2 years before that. And I was like, "Hey man, I'm Christian. Nice to meet you." And he's like, "Are you the one that was talking to me about the Elsa?" And like remembered the whole conversation. I was just like so blown away. That's what I think always like kept me loving punk rock and all its like little offshoots of just like never had a bad experience before. Like everyone's always so nice. So that's
so much
killer.
Family.
Yeah. So okay, I'm the gear nerd here. So before we stray too far, I have 40,000 more questions. So Ruther, correct, was the first one. So I'm pretty sure those were like a member of like the Maxwin Pearl kind of thing, like those stencil kits.
I have heard that.
So like they would just make them in a factory, sell them to drum makers. Drum makers would throw their labels on them, and that was that. And it's funny too, is I have. I wish I could show. Actually, you can see it right there. Maybe a little bit, that bowling ball blue.
Oh, yes.
Ludwig Tom. So that was bought in a kit, kind of the same thing. And that was the only one that had the white interior with like the re-rings. So that's like a real one. And then the rest of it's just like Frankenstein, all Ludwig, but definitely not as nice or as cool as yours are. So I get really psyched about this stuff.
I don't remember hearing about Ruther. Like, I don't know how they didn't get on my radar.
They're pretty rare. Like, I've only ever seen 2 other Ruthers in the wild. Like one time, very randomly, I was at a show and someone just like brought one out, and I was like, "Wow!" And then one time, I was in a very random practice spot in Fullerton. No, Pomona, and there was like randomly like one like shoved in a closet, and I was like, "What?" And I like went in and like peeled it out.
Wow.
I can see the badge. I'm pretty sure like circle with a blue
I'm gonna have
R.
To look it up.
And I'm such a dork.
Mine, since they're like pretty old, it was actually a like black rectangular badge, and it says like Ruther kind of in like a cursive style script.
Yeah, I'm looking them up right now. Ruther drums.
Yeah.
Oh, REUTH.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's see. I'm gonna go to images. Let's see. Okay, yeah, those are cool looking.
Yeah, it was a cool drum set to have.
Did you keep it? Oh, I was gonna say.
Of course, yeah. I did all my touring as a young person on that kit.
Always keep your stuff. I've made the mistake of selling old drum kits when I was a kid, and I regret it so much these days. You know, because I'm a drum nerd now with a studio, and I want to experiment. And I'm like, man, I wish I had that kit to experiment with now.
When my drum teacher retired when I was like 13, he sold me the kit that I was learning on, which was a 70s Citrus mod. And I was like super into Sepultura and like Megadeth and Metallica, and I got rid of it for like a 14-piece chrome Tama that I had no business owning. And that Tama is still worth the $300 I traded that kit for, and the kit I traded for it is worth like $3,000 now. So lesson learned there for sure.
Yeah, keep all your stuff.
Yeah. So I guess that'd be a good transition into touring. And when did you start?
Oh yeah. So I started when I was really young. I started touring when I was 11.
Wow.
Years old.
You and your sister together?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that your first band?
Yes.
Okay. Dog Party's your first band. Okay.
First band.
Okay.
So 11 years basically, old. The story goes, you brought up Kepi Guli earlier, and story goes that there's this local show promoter in Sacramento who really believed in us since day one. His name is Jerry Perry. He totally rocks. And for the longest time, he would throw like a birthday show for himself every year. And one year, I think I was in like 6th grade or 5th grade, something like that. He invited us to play. It was at this bar. We would always like play bars when we were like super little. It was at this bar called Old Ironsides in Sacramento. And luckily, he was able to get Kepi to play because, you know, Kepi's always gone doing something. And that's when we met Kepi for the first time. And I think that both me and Kepi were like mutually blown away. We were just like, he really liked Dog Party. And I was like, whoa, at him. Because at this point in time, I didn't really listen to any punk band. Like my dad was really into the 2000s rock revival and stuff like that. So I was listening to like punk adjacents and stuff. When my dad was a young lad, one of his favorite bands was X, which is definitely a great kind of unique punk band. So I would sometimes hear X, but that's about as crazy as I'd get, right? And when I met Kepi, he gave me, I'm not joking you, a stack about this big of all of his CDs that he's like pretty much ever made. And he's like, here you go, kid. And I went home and I was like putting them in the CD player, like, I gotta hear all this stuff.
They're like half your height at that point too.
That is when I was like, oh my God, like that really like spoke to me. There was something about it. It was like the high energy, the fun, and I don't know, just something about it just really like lured me in. And I remember on one of the CDs, the Groovy Ghoulies Monster Club, there is a Ramones cover. And I had remembered hearing about the Ramones because we, of course, as an early band, you know, you cover Blitzkrieg Bop. Just feel like it's a natural
rite of passage.
But so I had heard their cover of the Ramones on that album, and I thought, oh, the Ramones. This is another band that I need to check out. So I remember after that going to my local record store and grabbing a copy of the Ramones' first album and buying it and taking it home and putting it in the CD player. And it was like, that was it. That was it for me. I was like, let's go. So basically, I guess my long story, that's how I got into the Ramones, but that's how I got into punk rock and meeting Kepi. That's how we got our first tour. Because Kepi, we became friends after that, and he really loved our first album that we released. And he was like, yeah, dude, let's go on tour. And he asked my parents, he was like, you know, because we were getting serious about being in the band and we were playing, you know, out of town shows, we were doing all this stuff. And he said, you know, I'd be so down to taking that on tour. You know, of course, my mom went with us as well. But I'm just so glad that my parents said yeah. And I did my first ever tour when I was 11. We went down California and went over to Arizona and New Mexico. And it was sick. And I've toured every single year of my life since then.
That's awesome.
Every single summer from school, we'd go on tour. And ever since that first tour with Kepi, it did not take long until my sister and I were asked to be his backing band. And then, you know, we toured Europe twice. We toured the United States multiple times. And it was that really made me into the drummer that I am today.
Hell yeah.
Opening as Dog Party and then playing with Kepi, double sets a night. You know, Kepi is a very unique, amazing, very intense person. You think that there's days off when you play in his band? No. You know what a day off was until I was like, I was 18 until like kind of my sister and I started booking our own stuff and booking our own tours. And then we kind of had a couple of days off. And at first we were like, this is weird. We have to fill it. But then for a while we were like, oh, this is kind of nice sometimes.
I mean this in the nicest way possible, but I've always thought of Kepi sort of like the Peter Pan of punk rock, but also a little bit like Elf. Like he would just eat maple syrup and spaghetti and like.
Oh yeah, I can confirm because I spent a lot of time with the guy.
Well, and how cool is that to have supportive parents like that? You know, like I did.
Oh yeah, it's the best. Like my dad, he he's really into sports, but I say that not like football and stuff. He's like into cycling. And he's just really into just, I don't know, like I guess the cycling world is really unique, but just like the passion that exists within sport is a very unique thing as well. And there's adjacent, similarities to music. And so my dad has always viewed my sister and I playing music like a sport. And so, you see all these other parents going around and they drive like across states to go to like soccer tournaments with their kids and stuff. Or they do, X, Y, and Z to ensure that their kid is like, playing their sport. And my dad kind of viewed it the same way. Like he'd get a lot of judgment from parents, I think, in our schools because we were like in fifth grade playing bars, you know? But my dad didn't care. He
Well,
was like, my kids are passionate about this and
yeah.
I want to support them and help them, So
Well,
it's been amazing.
I was curious though, like, you bring up sports, and with sports there's a lot of training that goes
Hmm.
on and all that. And you go from, how old were you? 11 or 8 when you started playing?
Yeah,
And then when you started touring, you were how old again?
11.
11. So there's like 4 years where you're trying to like build up your stamina, and you go through
Yeah.
like getting calluses, and you're bleeding on your snare drum, and and you're getting cramps and in your legs and all that stuff. What was that process like? How did you get to where you could play a full set? I remember when I first started, I couldn't play a whole song, let alone a set, because it would just wear me out really quickly. And then over time, I built up stamina. What were some of the things you did?
Um, so when I was 8, like we pretty much started playing like shows right away. Like it was pretty crazy. We had a family friend who was in bands and he had kind of heard that my sister and I were playing instruments and he came over and he was kind of the one that helped orchestrate us playing together. Like he came over and by the end of the night we were playing Surfing USA by the Beach Boys.
Yeah,
But
one of my favorite bands.
yeah. So it was really nice to have him as someone to look to for like questions and whatnot. And also, he got us a lot of opportunities. Like, we had only written 4 songs, and he was like, I got you. It was our very first show. I got you a show opening up for Agent Orange at this crazy dive bar in Sacramento. And my sister and I were like, let's go. And so I think what I'm trying to say is I started playing so early on in front of people that I think there was a lot of just adrenaline from like being nervous about it. And like, I don't know, playing dog party sets, I was never tired or anything. Like I could always, get through that just fine. And I don't know if that's just because I was so young when I started that, you know, sometimes for young people, it's just like you just do it. And then older people are like, what the heck? How'd you just do that? And you're like,
Right. I was
ah.
14 when I started playing. I was young, but I was much
Yeah.
older.
But I will say that it got a little bit more intense when I started playing in Kepi's band as well. Then I was playing 2 sets a night.
That's kind of what I was getting
And
at. It gets
the
more intense.
style, the style of the drumming is different. So in Dog Party, there's only 2 of us in the band. So, the rhythmic, drumming, there's just a lot more like, I don't really know how to describe.
I will tell you how you play
Yeah.
drums because I noticed too. Well, no, you're like an amazing accent drummer. Like you really accent the riffs really well, and I think with the lack of a bass player, that's important because if you just played those driving drum beats like you would with Kepi, the song wouldn't have that same vibe. So there's a lot of
Right.
open.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, anyways, I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. You hit the description right there. I'm doing a lot more like accent stuff, and I'm not playing like the same style. So when I was playing, that Ramones chord drum style, I was like, oh my God, this is different. I like need to get my chops up a little bit. And there were times I was really tired, but I just had again like adrenaline like going crazy because I was playing the drums for like one of my idols. Like once Kepi gave me his CDs, I was listening to him like crazy, and I became a humongous fan. And it was basically like a year window before I got in, I got the opportunity to be in his band. But it was crazy because I knew his catalog inside out, and he could call out a song and I could just play it. Because I like, his songs are pretty simple, and yeah. But I would say that the biggest, moment where I was like, oh, dang, this is actually kind of crazy and hard to keep up with stamina wise was when I started playing the drums in another band called Pets. And then all three of us would tour together. So then I would drum in 3 sets a night. And I was only 15, but there were times where I was just starving. I was starving all the time. I'm like, I need to eat something.
It's such a workout.
Yeah.
Cardio is just
Oh my gosh. And
insane.
I remember the day that I almost died. Not really, but we had done a full US tour. We were gone for over 30 days, no days off type vibe. And our very last show of the tour was in Portland, Oregon. And we played a matinee show at this place called Katie O'Brien's. And they asked us, oh, do you also want to play the evening show? And Kepi's like, yeah, let's do it. And so I played 6 sets that night, and it was the last show of the tour. I was like, I cannot survive this, but I did. And it's moments like that that shape you into a musician.
Yes.
So, okay. Sorry. Matt and I tend to talk. Well, I tend to talk over Matt after whoever's on asks questions.
No,
so now I wait.
Talk over
and
Christian.
Now I make these weird pauses. So I did want to ask, like, growing up with your sister, I've noticed that on some of the early albums, correct me if I'm wrong, but like it's Gwen, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she did more of like the lead vocals in the beginning, right? And then kind of as things went on. Like what's the writing process from back then versus now?
Yeah, it has changed quite a bit. Way back in the day, we just had our band room was just the living room. My parents were chill with me having my drum set up in the living room, and we'd have like dinner, and then after dinner we just like play together. And my sister would just like play some chords, and I would start playing the drums, and I would just start singing, like over what she was playing. And sometimes she'd be like, hey, I wrote that guitar part. This is my song. You don't get to sing it. But I was kind of like a song thief. So I think like that's kind of the progression into like her singing more at the beginning, and then me kind of like grabbing all of her awesome melodies. But then, so we basically write a lot together because I didn't know how to play the guitar when I was younger. And so I'd have to have her to write songs, really. But then I learned how to play the guitar. So then I started writing songs like by myself, and then we come together. There's always been a strong collaborative element in the band. Since it was there since day one, I like to maintain it. And it's been slightly difficult over the years because, like, my sister left for college, and then we were living in different places, and then I left for college, and then we were living in different places. And then basically, since the pandemic, we've been in the same town. And so like that's been really cool again. So, but like I'm trying to say that, yeah, basically since I learned how to play the guitar, I was able to, come forward with material. But at the end of the day, I still like a collaborative element. So I'll bring my ideas and we'll sit down together and iron some stuff out.
Nice. So you started playing and singing at such a young age that was probably second nature. Like I still, I mean, I can't really sing well, but like it's so hard for me to like be able to turn off my brain, keep the drums going, and have any sort of melody.
Yeah.
So you just trained yourself super young?
I think that my drumming in particular is a little unique because I've always sang and played. That's how I learned. So again, it comes second nature, but also I kind of think of myself as more of like a songwriter, like first. I'm like primarily thinking of like the song, and like I'm kind of like a drummer, like secondary, even though that's what I'm doing. So it's been really fun as I've gotten older to play the drums for in other bands, because that's when I get to be a drummer fully. I'm like, whoa, this is like different. So that's a very unique experience for a lot of drummers. Um, but yeah,
I don't
I
know
just that's
why,
how
but
I
I
learn.
can I can sing and play drums at the same time, and I've never been a singer. I can just do it. I don't
That's awesome.
understand. I don't understand. But yeah, but being in different bands, I've known people who just played in their garage and then they
Hmm.
join a band and it's like they have no idea like how to work with other musicians or how to maybe read a bass player and play their kick to the
Yeah.
bass or whatever it may be. But yeah, growing up and playing in bands and going to different ones really shapes you and teaches you so much. And I'm glad that's what happened with me because I didn't want to be one of those guys that just played in the garage and had no idea what to do whenever I was in a band situation. So I'm glad you were able to start from the beginning like that.
It's definitely been helpful, I'd
Mm-hmm.
say. And then the fact that, my sister has been by my side this whole time. Like it was both me and her that were in Kepi's band together. So like we were had dog party, but then like the next thing that we did was play in someone else's band. So
Yeah.
we like drew like that together. And then both of us have played in other bands too. But just I think that like those first two big steps, like playing just ourselves together in our band and then also playing together with someone else. We both learned it at the same time, but we had each other. So we had our sibling, telepathy going on, but we were also working with someone else.
So when you're writing a song, are you writing are you writing it more like with drums in mind? Like I feel like if I'm not a good songwriter, I feel like if I wrote a song, I would be like, yeah, it would be like I would think about the groove, like the beat
Mm-hmm.
first. Is that what you do, or is it more the melody and the like the kind of like the uh
Yeah. It is more so the melody, I
okay.
would say for me. Um, and then I have that type of brain where you can like see stuff very vividly, like in your head, and hear stuff vividly. And so I can always kind of like, I have an idea of like what I want it to be like. And so sometimes the hardest part is kind of getting that out. Like, I hear it in my head, but I'm trying to get this out. But yeah, it's mainly more so like I write the melody and then I write the drum part to it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think you're a true songwriter.
Thank you.
That's what it sounds like to me. I think if I tried to write a song, I'd be like, yeah, let's start with a cool drum intro, and then it would all be about drums. So I think it's cool that you can turn that off, being a drummer, and focus more on the song itself.
Hmm.
So how did you transition into playing with Kelly Pop?
Yeah, Peach Kelly Pop was super cool.
Oh, it's
Um,
we me and my oldest, especially when I bring him to school, it's like, was it Dog Party, Kelly Pop? There's a band called Peach Fuzz that she really likes. She's
oh,
a
cool.
huge
I've heard of them.
huge Smoking Popes fan too, and
Oh,
yeah, it's
amazing.
it's a trip. But
Absolutely amazing.
anyways, I digress. Sorry.
It was a really cool opportunity that I believe that Mike Park was actually involved in this, which brings up a whole other can of worms. Asian man family. So Allie from Peach Kelly Pop, she wanted to plan a Japanese tour, and she wanted to bring an all-girl band with her. And so she was kind of like making some phone calls trying to figure it out. And so she called Mike and said, "Hey," from what Mike tells me, "Hey, I'm looking for a, you know, a punk rock drummer that can play the Ramones really well and can like be a road dog and is like, you know, they can rise up to the occasion basically and like tour." And Mike was like, "Yeah, I know the perfect person. Her name's Lucy." So then, next thing you know, I'm getting, my sister and I got an email from Allie, and she offered both of us, a position to be in the band for this tour, and my sister on lead guitar and me on the drums. And it was just so much fun. I mean, Peach Kelly Pop has always been around in the scene, you know, around Dog Party and stuff. We've played a couple festivals together. I've always heard of her. I always thought she was super cool. And it was just thrilled to be able to be in her band, especially like genre wise. That is like my bread and butter right there. It's like really kind of hard to explain the Peach Kelly Pop sound, but it's like very Ramones core. But then it's also like it has this really cool like 60s vibe, but then also has like this sporadic like Misfits vibe. Like you don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah. Oh,
And
there's
so
like
it's so interesting.
like a little bit of Kinks
Yeah.
kind of, but like I just love like the lo-fi and how I mean I think is her name Kelly?
It's Allie.
Allie. Okay. So but I feel like she's really good at like letting it breathe. Like there's just some stuff that has just a tambourine instead of like a full kit. So I think the way that she writes her stuff is pretty interesting too. So
yeah, it's extremely interesting and it's very inspiring. And it's pretty like unconventional from like the norm. And I feel like since I've been writing songs since I was 8, some of the stuff that I've done is pretty unconventional. And so I really like related to that. And I just thought it was so inspiring, and like it was just an honor to play. I had the most fun.
Yeah, I saw some.
More.
I saw some little like Instagram highlights from Japan. It looked fucking awesome. Any crazy stories?
It was just like the whole like it's kind of hard to explain, but every single thing about Japan is different than it is here. And so it was just nuts, like being in such a different culture and like being able to like rock. And like Peach Kelly Pop has an audience in Japan, and so people were like really excited that we were there, and like that was awesome. And Japanese people, they love music and they love to have a good time, and so that was really really fun. And I would just say like the craziest thing about it was the musicianship of the people in Japan. It was just like every single person was like mind-blowingly crazy good at their instrument. It was just like, whoa. And then another thing I thought was cool was, I don't know if it was just like the way that the shows were billed, but there were a lot of girls that were the drummers of the band. And that's just something that you don't see as often in America. And it was like every show there were like a handful of like other girl drummers, and I was like, this rocks, because they all shredded. It was crazy.
We're like this rocks, but also I'm gonna sink into my shell a little bit of how good.
A little bit, yeah. I'm like, dang, this is cool.
Well, Japan's always had like even like their like thrash and death metal and grind, like they've always had a crazy like good punk scene just out across like all the little subgenres of it. So that had to be cool.
It's really cool.
I'm hoping to get out there one day. I've heard good things about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The closest I'm going to I'm playing in Belgium this summer, and that's the first time I'll be in Europe. Exciting. So
congratulations.
I'm really excited about that one, but I've been just so like I went to Canada last year, and that wasn't anything different. I feel like Belgium's going to be like completely different. So I'm excited about it. It's going to be nice. And Texas boy, I might feel very out of place there.
I'm playing a couple towns over in like a few months. So
hey,
I know so much to boast about it. I mean, I did take a 15-year break from gigging when we started the family and stuff. So it is cool.
Never taking a break.
I know.
No. Never.
To go back to like, I mean, we're getting like I don't want to get too deep, but some of the gentlemen I was in last band drumming with had passed away since. So we're coming up on 15 years, and we're gonna do like a little tribute show. So it's kind of cool. Like I'm going right back to where I left off playing out.
That's
so
cool.
I'm nervous as shit too. I'm not gonna lie. But anyways, this is not about me. I did want to ask you about Bullet in Disguise.
Oh yeah.
I love that song, first of all.
Thank you.
And I guess this actually doesn't have a ton to do with drumming, but it's Wanda Jackson a little bit of an inspiration vocally?
Oh, most definitely.
Yep, I could hear
like the very first time that I ever heard Wanda Jackson was on a cassette tape, because I'm a big cassette person. And it was Fujiyama Mama, which we actually cover on our album Hit and Run. And I just remember like it was like time stopped. And I was like, no way. I was 18 and I was like, this is the first time I've ever heard someone sing that's like kind of like how I sing. I was like, whoa, this is amazing. But I love her.
Yeah, I think I heard it a little bit. So this was obviously after that point. Mm-hmm. When that song's killer. And I love like you kind of get that little like, I don't know how to describe it. I think Wanda always had, I call almost like a wind up growl. Like before she starts, her cadence was just so killer. And I love seeing influences coming from every direction. You know what I mean? I've always loved the aspect of punk. Like didn't grow up in that time period at all, but I liked like the early New York City description of punk, where it was just all the fucking weirdos, and it wasn't like everyone was just kind of different in their own ways, and it wasn't such like a straight down the middle, like this is what it sounds like and looks like. And I love that you're able to pull from multiple different genres of music, and the fact that it's like prominent too is pretty killer. So fuck yeah. And then the drumming on that song is just like more of that accent drumming.
Yeah, thank you. For that one in particular, I mean, it was kind of, I wasn't like fully thinking, it wasn't in the front of my mind, but one of our most popular songs is called Lost Control. And that's another like really very accent forward style of drumming. And, there's some growling in there as well. And I kind of was thinking it would be cool to write a song that was kind of similar to that, just bringing some more elements like back in. Because I thought for a period of time I was getting a little too melodic and I wasn't really, yelling as much. And I just love doing that. So that was definitely in the back of my mind when writing Bullet in Disguise. And so, once I wrote the song, had the melody down, I was very excited to get on the kit and flesh it out. But it was pretty much a no-brainer there on what I wanted to do.
So that one is was that like kind of, well, for lack of better terms, like sort of your song?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love how you two can write like that. Like that was do you guys ever like fight over this stuff? And I mean, not like, my brother and I would pound the crap out of each other, but.
No, we don't really fight over anything. I would say like sometimes there's moments where my sister's like, I don't like that lyric, and I'm like, well, I don't like that lyric, of her song, but that's about it. It's not really, my sister, like her songwriting style is really unique also. And so I think it's really cool that you can have like the two of us and our songs, they're a little different, but then they come together, and especially with like our harmonies, that there's always like aspects about them that tie together.
That's awesome. So there's something I want to ask you about, and I'm very jealous. You toured with Green Day.
Yeah.
So Trey Cool. So I was 14 when I started playing drums. It was 94. That's when Dookie was, I always hate saying that's when Dookie came out. Or that's when Dookie was released. And that was like basically the album that made me like, I want to play drums. Yeah. I want to play just like that. And I've met Trey. I met Trey on the streets of Austin during South by Southwest one year. And he was really cool and everything. But he's my number one, like him and Bill Stevenson, and of course like Dave Grohl, like big influences on me. And how cool was that to be able to watch him play I don't know how long you were on tour, but just being
Yeah,
able to watch him play like that, I would have given anything.
it was absolutely insane. Um, the tour that we got to do was Green Day describes as a club tour, but it was small theaters. So it was very intimate and just crazy, 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 crazy cool. But I remember specifically the very first show of the tour. I believe it was in Columbus, Ohio. And I got to stand in the barricade area and just this like wave like rushed over me. And I was like, this is what I want to do, which is crazy because as I've described this whole entire time, I've had that moment where I've said that this is what I want to do. That's all I want to do. But it was really then that I was like, this is like on some complete other level. Like the magnitude of what is going on at a Green Day show, like that is just undescribable. Like you would think that those three are triplets, like out of the womb at the same time, maybe even.
Right.
Like that is how strong their connection is. And Trey is just like a powerhouse of a drummer and a guy. Like he's crazed and it's really cool to just like see him like on stage off stage like it's the same. And so it's very like genuine when you meet someone like that. And like, but there's still the human element. I saw like a bit of a human element out of the guy, which was super cool too. Like on that tour, it was when they had released Revolution Radio, and there's like this crazy drum solo in the song Bang Bang. And I remember he would look so nervous before he did the fill. And I'm like, I caught you. I caught you being a little nervous. Like you're still a human guy, you know what I mean? Even though he's like just wild.
It's so cool that you had that. So I had the same experience you did. I saw him, told you I'm kind of old. I saw him in 95
Oh, that
and
rocks.
it was the Insomniac tour. And that was the loudest tour. They were touring at the Riverdales. And I just remember my ears rang for like a week after that. And I was 15 and I had just gotten a drum kit like the year before. And that night changed my life. Like it was very similar to what you had, because you had your initial, like you said, but then you
Yeah.
see a band like Green Day, and
Hmm.
I saw them when they were young, you
Yeah,
know.
that's really cool.
I mean, every song was like three times as fast as the album, and
Yeah.
it was
Oh, that
loud and
rocks.
insane. And so, like that, I mean, that's why I'm here too. That's why I play in bands today, is because of that show, really. So cool that you had this
Magical.
a similar experience.
Do I lie and tell a Trey Cool story?
You can.
I used to live with Trey Cool at one point. We had this really cool apartment together. No, um, I don't know. I was not too proud of this, but at that point in my life, I was pushing pretty hard against like everything that I was seeing on MTV and stuff like that. So we had just had a friend with an older brother, so we had Kerplunk before like Dookie
Hmm.
came out. So we knew it already. And then when Dookie came out, like yeah, again, not proud of it, but like kind of was like sell out, blah, blah, blah. But then like you look back on it and those dudes took like Pansy Division
Yeah.
out with them. And then like and when states would say like you can't have these, I'm not gonna say the word, opening up for you in
Hmm.
our state, they would just move on and say, well,
Yeah.
fuck you, then we're not playing. So I do like I admire that early what's the word I'm looking for? I can't believe I'm blanking here. Like just the like the backbone that they had to like stick
For
with
sure.
their friends and stand up for that. And I think, bands like that are necessary. I mean, how many people got into it from listening to them?
Yeah. And it holds true today, which is, one of the most admirable things about the band as
That's
well.
the word. That's the word.
So it's just like being having such an opportunity. I had just turned 18 years old. I had just gotten my first Ludwig drum set. I was like, dang, and now we got a tour with Green Day. Like, whoa. It was a great year for me. But anyways, it was just very cool to be able to see such a large band like that, and they had to like, you know, um they were, I mean, they play stadiums and stuff, but they were playing these smaller venues. And so to see like their like whole team of people like working around them and like really like making sure that these shows were going smoothly. And it was just cool to see all the people that they had in their team. And that was one of the most important lessons I learned in this industry is that you have the power to make your team of people around you. Like they had people working with them that had been with them for like 30 years, you know? And they have people around them that they like to be around. They have people around them that believe in them and are there for them. And, you know, that is what's important. And I feel like in this industry, it gets a little crazy with all that X, Y, and Z. But at the end of the day, you got to bring the punk ethos back into it and just have the people that you want in your corner, you know?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And you also want people who are like doing your sound and all that stuff who want to hear it. I got some buddies in Bouncing Souls, and they just came around recently, and like I went out and I hadn't seen them in a while, so I went out and like we all had breakfast together and stuff. And then I'm like watching the sound engineer is just singing along to all the songs. He's just still so like everyone was just pumped to be watching their friends play music, and I think that's part of it too, is like bringing people up with you when you're on the way up, and those people are saying they'll catch you when you're on your way down. Yeah, that's awesome. That's important. I wish people did a little bit more of that these days,
Yeah.
Okay, so
I noticed. Oh, go ahead, Christian.
No.
I was going to say, I noticed when I think I was looking at your Instagram. We both are endorsers of London Drumstick Company. I love it.
Love London Drumstick Co.
I love them.
The feel of the stick is so important, especially if you're playing fast and stuff. Mm-hmm. And just what I love to do. And there's not a stick that is more comfortable in my hand than the London Drumstick Co. And I'm not just saying that. Like when I got my sticks in the shipment the first time years ago, I was a little bit worried. Like I was like, here we go. Like this is my first time playing. I'm like, what if I don't like them? Like, because I don't like to stand by something that I promote something that I don't stand by, And I was just like, this rules. Like this is the best drumstick I've ever used in my life. And so it's just great. I love them. They're great folks. And I'm an artist, and I love all the artistic elements of just like being able to create really anything. But bands are a part of that, and aesthetics and stuff. I mean, Jack White being one of my biggest influences, like, and that is so cool. And so the fact that you're able to customize the sticks and they're so cool about it, and they like want to make sure everything is how you want it, is just very rewarding and great. Love them.
Yeah. Same. When I got my first shipment, and I was like, I'm, it was like the Wayne's World, like, I'm not worthy. But, yeah, they're super cool guys, and gals. What size do you play with?
Yeah, I play with 5A.
5. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I think they're all hickory, aren't they? I don't know if they have oak. I was always an oak guy.
Yeah, mine are hickory.
Yeah, because oak, I noticed they wouldn't, my hickory Zildjian sticks would go like this. They would like peel off. And then when I started playing oak, they would just like chip off. And I was like, oh, yeah, these last forever. But my London Drumstick Company hickories don't peel for some reason.
Yeah, I have the greatest time with them. Like, I'm not a big stick breaker, but when I do break sticks, I break the tips.
Yeah.
Just because of how I play. But the tips last so long on these. Like, I'd pick up like a pair of like Vic Firth or something, and I'd crack off the tips like with one show, but not
I don't know what they do to their sticks. I mean, my London Drumstick Company sticks last a long time. And
yeah, mine do too.
Really surprised.
And they don't have that like disgusting lacquer that they put on drumsticks.
Yeah.
They're like, they feel good in your hands, and like I don't get blisters when I play with them. Like
Yeah.
normally when I play with a brand new pair of sticks, if it was like Vic Firth or whatever, which is what I used to use, I would get these crazy blisters on the tops of my thumbs, and it just hurts, especially when you're on tour. You can't have blisters on your thumbs, but I don't get blisters with London Drumstick Co. And I don't know why. I think it's just because they don't use that like sticky lacquer that
Yeah.
they put on.
It's probably a lot of factors. It's probably that, and maybe they're better balanced for you. And
Yeah.
I don't know, but I mean, my hands are full of calluses from just their, last 30 something years. But yeah, I haven't had it. Now that you mentioned that, I haven't had any new blisters or anything since I started playing with those. So maybe you're onto something.
Well, I can't wait to get mine, Matt.
Yeah, you gotta get them.
I'm having some made that says Punk Rock Drummers on it, and I'm sending you some. So
I think he was talking to you, Lucy. Not we'll send some to you too.
Oh, hell yeah!
Heck yeah, I'll get some.
So I play. I'm not going to say the name of the company, but I played the same sticks forever, and recently stopped because I had the butt end of the stick blew apart. Like I've never had that happen before, and it just like it grabbed my hand, and I was like trying to shake the drumstick off. I'm sure it was like, again, probably like a 1 in a million chance of happening, but the blister that left behind, I was like, I'm done.
That sucks.
We're done here. So I'll hold off on mentioning any other drumsticks until London endorses us too for the podcast. So
yeah,
that'd be cool. Sorry, I do apologize, Lucy. I don't know. I have 3 kids, and if my phone lights up, I just kind of have to look at it in case it's in school or something. No, I just don't want you to think I'm like dreaming. Oh my god, I can't wait off. I just want to make sure there's no like your kid just puked again, which seems to be every other month these past couple.
Oh my gosh!
I have an 8-year-old daughter, and it's funny because going back to drum lessons, she's very jealous whenever the little girl comes over for drum lessons. She's also 8, and so she comes out there and just kind of stares and glares at me, the whole time. And then afterwards, she's like, "Can you give me a drum lesson, please?" That's the only time she's interested in getting drum lessons is after that little girl leaves.
That's funny.
Well, I will ask. I don't know if this is a strange question, but I've definitely asked it before. I know that you have a very long catalog, and I know that you started playing super young. If you could go back in time, would you, or if you could, would you get rid of one song? Like if you could just delete a song from your catalog, is there anything that you're like, oh God, I can't believe?
I hate to be negative or anything, but to be very realistic, there's not a lot. When I look back at our first record, I wrote those songs when I was in 5th grade and some earlier, and I'm like, wow, these are like good songs. And for a while growing up, I was like a little embarrassed about some of the catalog because I was so young, and like it's hard when you're trying to be a young adult and then people are like, or there's stuff in your catalog that you did when you were in 5th grade and that like represents who you are, But I just try to think of it more as like a cool thing, like a time capsule.
I'm so happy you said no.
That being said, there's one song that people really like, and my sister and I are both just like, oh God. And we like still get asked to play this song. And it's like, please don't go and listen to it when I mention. But it's on our second record, which is called Party. But the song is called Chihiro.
And you'll play it for us right now. Ready?
No. But it's just like, what about that song? My sister and I will talk about it from time to time, but we're both so like puzzled. Like, what about that song? I don't know.
Was it the lyric content or just the way?
The lyrical content is what I don't really like. It's not a serious song. It's a joke song, or not a joke song. It's not a joke song. It's just a song. Like we were so young. It's like, what do we write songs about? That one's written about a rabbit.
That's okay though. I mean, They Might Be Giants. One of their most famous songs is about a nightlight. So,
That's true.
Well, what's a Dead Milkman? Have I tripped over the ottoman? Like, give yourself some.
Yeah.
I mean, I was really hoping that you weren't gonna like. I'm glad to hear that you're more proud of everything that you did, and you can accept that as like a maybe not necessarily a huge part, but that's still like part of who you are. I think a lot of people would like try to hide that stuff, but to be able to
Mm-hmm.
embrace it and just accept, like, dude, you were a kid.
Yeah.
Like, it was so so cool what you're like. What other kids were doing that, you know? So good for you. That's
There
awesome.
weren't many.
No, that's for sure. I catch my girls writing songs together, and I'm waiting for like the inevitable like "fuck you, dad" song. Which, you know, if all three of them can bond over their hatred for me, I'll take it at this point to stop fighting with each other for 5 minutes. But well, Matt, how do you feel, buddy?
I felt, I've been sick all week. I feel this is the best I've felt all week, if that's what you mean.
No, I meant like, did you have more questions?
Yeah, well, I kind of wanted to. I know we're coming up on we're at a little over an hour. I wanted to ask about. I'm not the biggest gear nerd, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm always interested in like pedals and cymbal choices,
Mm-hmm.
especially like I go through pedals because I think my biggest weakness is my foot, is my right foot.
Mm-hmm.
And especially like when you're in bands that play fast, like kind of no effectsy stuff, it's like I'm not the greatest. So I've been going through all these different brands, and I just bought a DW 9000 to see if that would help me. What is your choice? What do you feel most comfortable playing pedal
Yeah,
wise?
I am a tried and true DW 5000
Okay,
person.
yeah.
I love that pedal. I've had a couple. Um, I think it's great because it's just super like well made. Obviously, the DW line is, but the 5000 in particular is pretty simple.
Mhm.
It gets better than the 3000. Always use a double chain too. No singles over here.
Agree.
But the 9000 is a little much. Is there a 7000 too? There
I
could
don't
be.
know.
I
There
don't know.
probably is.
But I mean, I definitely see the appeal of the 9000, and it probably works like super great for a lot of people. But for me in particular, that DW 5000 is the porridge that's the right temperature.
Yeah. I think I have a 3000 and the 9000. I think I skipped the 5.
Five
But
is cool. It also has red on it.
yeah.
Cool
I think
aesthetics.
the 9000 is all silver.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no red on that, I don't think. I just got it like 2 weeks ago, and I haven't really looked at it because you know, it's under my foot.
Yeah,
But
I'm kind of weird about the pedal. I've always got to kind of have mine. Took mine to Japan, even though they said, "Oh, you don't need to. They have great backline." I was like, "Nah, I'm taking my pedal." I'm
I
like,
made that mistake last year.
"Yeah, you got to have it, or
Yeah.
else
I didn't
some
take my
problems can
symbols.
happen." Ugh. Yeah, I'm super weird about my pedal and my clutch.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
You got to
don't
have a
like playing
nice
other people's clutch.
no. Nope, because
And then I
it'll
hate
slip.
when the hi-hat rod, like for some reason there's like two sizes. And sometimes it like won't work and I'm like, ah. But I always like to play my own drums.
Yeah,
Oh, for sure.
when y'all were talking about accents earlier, were you talking more about like hi-hat accents or like cymbal or
I think it's more just like um no, I'm not really like accenting like little like I'm more like emphasizing
mm,
like certain stuff that's going on,
yeah, that makes
I would
sense.
say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think of like a drummer like Trey Cool. He does all those little
Hmm.
hi-hat accents
Yeah.
while he's
Hmm.
playing. He does a lot on Nimrod, especially
Yeah. Oh,
like
I'm a
Scattered.
Nimrod girl. I'm a
Yeah, me too.
It
That's the best Green Day album. So
is.
like
Yeah,
the
it's my
song
favorite.
Scattered.
Scattered,
Yes.
one
I
of the
mean
best.
he does all those little hi-hat um accents, but he also it's funny because he'll play kind of close it, but he'll open it up,
Oh,
too,
yeah.
like kind of in the middle of the verse.
Hmm.
He'll still open it up
Yeah, yeah.
a little bit, but still has that chunky, crispy sound too. I don't know how he does it. And I've been trying to replicate that my entire, well, since I was 14.
Yeah.
And so those are the kind of accents. I didn't know if you did anything like that. I think that's cool. I don't see that ever. I don't see that ever. And if I do a Green Day cover, people always say, "Oh, you did the accents." I'm like, yeah, that's how you play it. But if you look on
Well,
any video online, they're like, yeah, this is how you play this Green Day song. They don't. They play like the most vanilla way. So yeah, I think those accents are cool. You know, when they're incorporated into music. I just don't hear it much anymore.
for sure.
I think I don't know if radio likes stuff like that. You know?
Who knows about radio these days?
Yeah.
Is it still a thing?
Not as much, I
I
don't
feel like
think.
it's kind of a dinosaur at this point, you
Well,
know?
I listen to the oldies, which the oldies now are what was playing when I was in high school.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Uh,
Makes me feel old.
Yeah, oh yeah, we are the oldies now. That's all right
Yeah.
though. You know what, man? I the older I get, I keep looking at this sense of like not to get all deep and dark, but I got I got friends that didn't make it much past 15, 16 years old. So as the hair fell out and the beard started to turn gray, it's like, dude, what a privilege it is to still be able to do this stuff and still listen. I mean, music, it just all boils down to me. I'm one of those people where like, I need new tires. Oh, fucking, that's 3 snare drums. Like I still equate everything I have to buy, groceries, everything's like, that's a fucking set of hi-hats. Like, I
oh
don't
my
know.
gosh.
I feel like it
That's
definitely
true.
like, yeah, it takes over. So it's great to still be doing this. So I'll take old any day
For sure.
Yeah.
for sure. So Matt, should we
Yeah,
take
go
it
for it.
home?
Yeah,
Okay.
go for it.
So we usually will end on a segment called questions from my kids. So
All
today
right.
I actually I didn't look at them yet. So let's see what we get.
I need to start doing this too.
My 7-year-old wants to know why pink.
Ooh. That's a good question. Pink came to me. I never liked pink that much, but then it was right before my first European tour. I think I was like 12, 13 years old, and I was like, well, I have to be cool in Europe. So I was like, I want pink hair. And my parents, they're pretty not stoked about it, but they let me.
Nice.
And I just chose pink because I don't know. I feel like it just really fits me.
There you go. Oh jeez.
Uh-oh.
No, my 11-year-old's a bit of a smarty pants. Where are my shoes?
You know, I don't drum with shoes on, so
Oh, really?
yeah,
Oh, man.
that's actually like a very deep question
Like
about
just
my
socks
drumming.
or
No,
totally barefoot? Barefoot. No
barefoot.
blisters?
No, oh yeah,
Okay.
I do, unfortunately.
I tried that before and yeah, I paid the price.
That's what I love about
Yeah.
these questions. No matter how silly they are, like no one has yet to not have an answer for nails.
Yeah.
In case you couldn't tell, she couldn't find her shoes this morning. I'm like, look in anywhere that you would not think a shoe would be, and that's where they are. Like one in one room, one in the other, one on her couch. Totally fine. And then yeah, I think that wraps it up. Unfortunately, my oldest is a little too cool for me sometimes, so she didn't want to participate. But thank you so
Yeah.
much. It's been, honestly, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us. This was cool. And maybe somewhere down the line, if you ever want to come back again, I'm sure there's so much more we could cover.
Yeah, I'm so honored to be here. It's crazy cool. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thanks for
Oh,
being here with us.
we got give a little shout out to our mutual friend Scott.
Oh yeah,
The dude's
Scott
a
is so
ripper.
cool. Yeah, I actually found Scott via the punk rock drummers Facebook group, and I was like, "Whoa, that kid rips!" And so, of course, I went over to his Instagram and followed him, and we became kind of like mutuals on there. And then his awesome band Chemical X is going on tour, and we set up a show together. So I'm going to
I saw
be
that.
playing with him and
Hell yeah.
meeting him, and it totally rules.
So that makes me happy. So I created that group, the punk rock drummers group, after seeing the punk rock bass players group that Eric Boutel
Yeah.
from Jughead's Revenge made. And this
Ah,
was this was a year ago, right? And nothing happened. It just sat there. Like nobody joined it,
whoa.
nothing happened. And then I guess it was about September of last year. I was in Canada and Jughead's Revenge was playing, and I was playing with my band Fire Cell, and he had mentioned something about the bass players group like getting some steam at that point. This was last October. And then all of a sudden people start joining the drummers group, and then it just took
Wow.
off.
That's so exciting.
I'm glad it's being used for good, because that was the whole reasoning behind it. You know,
it is being used for good.
Drummers to connect. And I was like, well, the next reasonable thing is to make a podcast.
That is so true.
So
it's very awesome you guys are doing this.
And Christian has been the best co-host, and I mean, we talk every day and it's amazing. So
I say bro host.
He hasn't gotten tired of me yet.
That rocks.
Well, I wanted to bring him up too, because he's just a good dude. Like he's like, I love, and I hate saying shit like this because I know to an extent numbers, but seeing younger people, especially that started so young like you and he did, that are bringing like a bit of a fire back into it, is awesome. And I don't know if you guys could pull some strings, but I think you should get that young man an endorsement, get him some drumsticks too.
I mean, I'd love to see it. He's so cool though, and exactly what you guys are saying. Like when I saw his drum videos, I was just like, wow, like this is something that's very special. And there's not a lot. I mean, you guys know, like we all see a lot of drummers every day, and the line of business that we do. And there's some of the drummers you see that have this like magic to him. And Scott is one of those people. So I'm very much so looking forward to seeing him drum in real life. Like, whoa.
Probably
so
won't be
cool.
disappointed.
And he's inspired me. I've thought about the idea of making some drum videos for a while, but I'm like kind of shy, and I just need to get over that.
I love the fact that like you're shy, but you've been playing in front of it's so funny of like when the camera's on you, like you get more shy than you do when there's thousands and thousands of people watching. I hate that. The same thing. That was actually one of the hardest parts of starting this, was like one of the two of us usually have to watch and or listen to make sure everything went. And I'm like, oh, my own voice and my face at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, Matt, you watch the videos and I'll listen to the audio. How about that?
I can't watch. I don't watch these because I hate the way I talk.
Does anyone like the way they sound?
I don't think so.
No, not at all. But anyways, we won't keep you any longer. And I'm sorry to go off on that little tangent. I feel bad now that I talked about Scott at the end of your episode.
No,
but
I was hoping that would happen, because I think it's great that he plays with his sibling too, and like that just rocks, and he's so passionate about it. Yeah, I heard the interview, and I thought it was really, really cool.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we'll let you get back to your day. I really appreciate your time. And Matt, I'll apologize to you one more time. Sorry for fucking beefing the whole time zone thing.
We'll let you handle that part from now. I did it once. Yeah, it's going to happen when you're dealing with multiple time zones. So,
well, I guess, Lucy, before we wrap up, is there anything coming up that you want to promote? I mean, this will probably be a few weeks before it comes out, but.
Well, actually, in some very exciting news, my sister and I got asked to play Buddies Fest.
Oh, John Snodgrass? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. He's a friend of mine.
Yeah, big friends with John. John totally rocks. But this festival is very, very cool because, I mean, it's kind of celebrating John and like all of his friends, but all is playing, which that's very exciting. So there's just a lot of like great, awesome people and bands, and it's so cool to be able to be on such a cool bill. So that's coming up in July 11th through 13th is the Buddies Fest, and my sister and I will be on tour around then, getting out to the festival. So we'll be posting dates shortly. But yeah, that's what we have cooking up for y'all.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Very cool.
All right. Well, I guess that wraps it up, Lucy. Thank you so much again, and maybe we'll run into you in the future.
I hope so. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Lucy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.